The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Roman Sandler. Roman is the co-founder and CTO at iCardio.ai. Roman, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, JP. Great to be here.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you. So Roman, let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. Could you give us an overview of your background in technology and what your journey has been like from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and what led to the formation of iCardio?
I guess I had a little bit of a circuitous route. I started off originally getting a PhD in biomedical engineering. I was really interested at that time in neuroprosthetics, brain machine interfaces. I didn't know much about them, but I was really interested in this space. So I did that at USC. I worked with Sos Barbaros and Ted Berger. It ended up that even though I was really interested in the brain, actually ended up never seeing a brain or doing any experimental work. My whole time was spent in front of a computer doing essentially machine learning and data science. This was kind of in the days before deep learning was even a thing. In fact, I remember a professor at one point, somebody asked him about deep learning and in a machine learning class, and he laughed it off and said, "Oh, once we figure that out, we'll forget all about it." Obviously it didn't turn out that way. So from there, I was the founding member of Kernel, which was a neuroprosthetic startup at the time. So that was very exciting. Did that for 2 years. Then eventually things didn't work out with that startup and I needed jobs, but most of my skills were in machine learning. So I ended up going into the defense space for several years where I really polished my deep learning skills and computer vision skills. And I was in the defense space. And then I met a friend of mine socially who told me that he has this incredible data set that he got from essentially it was kind of his best friend's dad was a cardiologist who ran a telecardiology business for over 20 years where collected what we believe is one of the largest private echo databases in the country. It was essentially 150,000 annotated studies, over 200 million images. And he was sitting on this data set and he knew my background in machine learning and started asking me about it. We started slowly collaborating and working together. I started eventually consulting for him. And then once I saw the value and the potential of the data set, both as a machine learning practitioner, just the science there, but also the possibilities to really push the field of healthcare and how echocardiography is done forward, it was just a no-brainer for me. So I left my job and joined him at iCardio.ai.
Roman, thank you so much for that background, sharing your journey. It's always great to learn about the origin story of founders coming together, which you shared with us in connection to iCardio. So tell us all about iCardio, who you are, what you do, what the mission of the business is.
Sure. Yeah. Just a little bit of background. We do AI for echocardiography, which is essentially ultrasound of the heart. So there's about 30 million echoes done each year in the US and another 75 million globally. It's really the forefront modality for screening for heart disease. And probably every single person listening to this podcast will eventually have some form of heart disease. And because of its, how relatively inexpensive it is and how safe it is in the sense that there's no radiation, this is the most commonly used test to check on the condition of the heart. And so an echocardiographic exam is about, let's say, 40 to 60 videos of the heart at different angles. And right now, currently, these are acquired and reviewed by sonographers and cardiologists with years of fellowship training. And the whole exam right now takes about an hour. So our thesis is that with the use of modern AI tools, we could cut down the time it takes for clinicians to conduct these exams by at least 50%. And furthermore, just because of fatigue and human error, doctors will miss conditions in the exams all the time, which is obviously really bad for the patients. And so with AI diagnostic tools, we think that we can reduce that underdiagnosis rate, which will obviously help save lives We truly believe that, but also it's potential revenue opportunities for the hospitals because these missed conditions they lead to follow-on tests and more potential surgeries, procedures, et cetera. And so really iCardio is designed to help everyone. Most importantly for the patients, we can improve their outcomes. For clinicians, we are an efficiency gain. We can help them review these exams faster so that they can do more important things like dealing with the actual patients. And for providers, we increase revenue in the form of what would have been missed revenue opportunities like follow-on procedures, as well as direct reimbursement.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about the clients and the benefits to them in a little bit, but I want to start with the underlying AI and technology that's the core of iCardio. Your background is within machine learning, and as the CTO, you play the most important role in shaping the strategic direction of the technology. Can you talk to us about the build, the AI behind iCardio, what's involved, how it works day to day, and how it's helping these physicians just very quickly assess and make these predictions on different cardio scans?
Like I said, an echocardiographic report consists of about 40 to 60 different videos of different angles of the heart. And traditionally, you would have a sonographer or technician do a bunch of manual measurements on these videos. So they would play the video, select the key frame, the frame of where the heart is in a certain cycle, and either make a segmentation or a measurement like the line measuring a length. And so the technician would spend minutes doing that. And then the doctor would review it and identify any disease. And that would go into a final report, which consists of any conditions that the patient may have, as well as a bunch of measurements. And so our goal is to produce a preliminary comprehensive echo report, which means that currently we screen for about 30 different pathologies and have a dozen clinically relevant measurements. The way we do it now is that each one of those pathologies and measurements have their own deep learning model attached to them. We do combine them a little bit, but essentially right now we have well over 40 models that are production ready and deployed. And so we realized from the outset that we couldn't train these models in a bespoke manner one by one. To really manage this project of producing the whole report, we need to build out a pretty sophisticated infrastructure where we could almost automatically train, validate, and deploy these models. And for example, now we've created an infrastructure where with the click of a button, let's say we know we want to target a specific condition, let's say aortic stenosis. So with a click of a button, we can scour our database for the relevant cases, upload them to the cloud, train a deep learning model with our secret sauce architectures that we already know work well for these problems on a validation set that wasn't used for training, and deploy this model to an endpoint that's accessible anywhere in the world by downstream ultrasound hardware machines, as well as PACS systems, which is a software that doctors basically interface with the echo imagery with. We also in the process generate the FDA documentation showing that these models have this sufficient performance to meet the FDA endpoint criteria that we selected.
I'm glad you bring up the FDA because I know from our conversations off air some of the unique challenges that you face when operating in this medical space because FDA approval has its own unique set of challenges, particularly when it comes to assessing technology, making predictions. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that has been like, that journey from taking something to the FDA to getting it approved and having iCardio now working with these physicians on their existing technology?
That's definitely been the biggest learning curve for me about this job because I came in already knowing how to train these models, but the whole FDA process of how do you, and it's really, I wouldn't say it's just limited to FDA. It's really for any regulatory agency of, in a regulated environment, how do you build AI models that third parties and really society at large can trust? And so that's been a process. And I think the FDA is still figuring out how to regulate a lot of these things. Just in the time I've been doing this, I've seen new guidances and also internal contradictions between the various departments within the FDA. But broadly speaking, the FDA they want documentation that that your performance is where you say it is, and that the performance that you advertise is critically useful to doctors. And you have to provide evidence of both. In practice, what this comes down to is just a lot of documentation. You have to document what your models are. You have to document all of the performance criteria, and you have to document relevant examples. You also have to document how the models are trained. You have to document how and really prove that no data from the test set was used in the training set. You have to document how generalizable the training and test set that you used are to the general population. And so what it comes down to is a lot of documentation. And really our philosophy is that we want to automate this as much as possible. So we have really built our infrastructure to be FDA first or documentation first, so that the documentation is automatically generated just as much as the models are automatically generated. So it's not something that we do after the fact, but it's really part and parcel of the DNA of our AI infrastructure.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
I want to go back to something you said in the introduction to iCardio as a business in reference to the customers. Can you give us some insight into what the conversations have been like when you take iCardio and its product to these hospital systems? What has been the reaction from the physicians? And are there any recent examples or cool stories that you could share with us about physicians using the technology, hospital systems taking in the technology, and what's been the outcome?
So right now we are in the FDA process. So our software is under review. So we can't legally commercialize it yet or sell it yet, but we are in clinical trials. As far as the response, I would say there's healthcare is such a complex environment, and there's a lot of different stakeholders. I would say that our best friends are the doctors themselves. They see the use for this. They know they see that what AI has done to other aspects of society, and they know that it's coming, and they welcome it. Really, for the most part, they're not afraid of it. They're really excited about it, and the reason is, one, they know that they, or maybe not them, but their colleagues, make mistakes, and that this can help that. This can help with that and improve patient outcome. And two, this can free them up to do other things, or at least leave work earlier. So I would say they're our best friends. There's probably much more resistance on the part of the actual hospital administration. What they want to see is that we don't just help people, but that we increase revenue, which is important. But probably the biggest obstacle is the hospital IT department, because from my experience, they are usually small teams that are very overworked. They have a lot riding on their shoulders, and they are understaffed. And this is a huge undertaking for them to integrate a third-party service inside the hospital, just from the standpoint of liability. So we have to really do a lot of work to gain their trust and their confidence and really make it as easy for them as possible. As far as anecdotes, I will say, even though we haven't sold, we're not commercialized yet, probably one of the finest moments for me as a scientist working on this was, we have models that detect a lot of diseases, and we've had the opportunity to, with some of our partners who we're under clinical trials with, to analyze their previously collected data with our models. And we have the ground truth of what their doctors identified. And that's how we assess the accuracy of our models. And what we've seen is, we'll get a certain level of performance, but then we'll go through the examples where the model is wrong. And we will, with our clinical team, we'll go through each example of where the model made a false positive and a false negative. And I'll definitely say there's plenty of times where the model is just wrong. But there are times where the clinical team will actually side with our model over the original clinician who looked at the data, which could have been 1 or 2 years ago. And they'll say that the doctor made a mistake. And it's really a magical moment when the clinical team agrees with your model over somebody who's trained for years to do this. And I would say also, the other thing is, that's what it really drives home, that this can really help people, because I don't know what happened with that patient. I hope everything went fine. Maybe he got a checkup and they found their mistake later, but you really could see that had the model been there, it could have alerted the doctor, and maybe he would have made a different decision, and this could have really improved the patient's outcome.
I want to finish our interview, Roman, on on the next chapter of iCardio looking ahead? You've already built an incredible product, which once the FDA give it its full approval, which I have no doubt it will, you're going to be, inundated with opportunity to take this to all the hospital systems, which is very exciting. When you look at the next 12 to 24 months for iCardio AI, what are some of the things you're most excited about? What are the big milestones you're hoping to work towards?
Sure. Yeah. So there's a lot of business milestones, but I just want to touch a little bit on the part that really excites me as a scientist of what the future of AI in Echo is. Up until now, we have really been trying to reproduce what the human doctor does at this point in time, which I think is the bare minimum of what we can and should aim for. Because really, where it gets exciting is when AI has, I would say, superhuman capabilities. And part of that, so two examples there. One is being able to train on long-term longitudinal outcomes. So there's when a human doctor looks at the report, they have the videos in front of them and they're trained to understand them, but humans don't really have the intuition of what's going to happen to this patient 10 years down the line. But now with electronic health records, we actually have that data, like long-term outcome data of how are they going to fare with surgery, how all cause mortality in 2 years, 5 years. And so we could really trade on that and get superhuman performance because human doctors are not really, that's not really a part of their training. And two is with the advent of large language models and foundation models, there's huge opportunities to really offer capabilities that humans have never had before. So for example, there was recently a paper that I'm really excited about by Google Elixir, where they trained models to give humans the ability to actually talk to images. And so you can imagine that you have 60 videos and you prepare the preliminary report, and then the doctor says, "Hey, you said this, but I'm not really sure if that's the case. Can you tell me why you said that?" And the model will actually answer with text and images. It could potentially pull up the exact frame in 60 videos showing why it came to that conclusion. And so the doctor could, one, build trust in the model and understand what it did and more quickly get to the correct answer. And I think that pairing between humans and AI is really going to drive AI and Echo to the next level.
Final question, Roman. Obviously, what we're talking about all falls under the banner of AI, whether it be the machine learning aspect, the data science, data engineering, data analytics, and you're building an AI first company. So when you look at the road ahead, assuming the FDA approval comes in and all of the hospital systems in the world are going to want technology like this, it's going to require you and your team to grow and build more amazing features. Speaking to an audience of AI and data professionals, when you think of the road ahead, what sort of opportunities are there going to be for people to join iCardio? What hiring are you going to need to make? And finally, then, when you're speaking to people about iCardio, what do you tell them about the environment, the work, the mission to get them to join you guys over some of the other great companies hiring?
Sure. Yeah. So we're in the process of completing our funding round. So I do expect that the team is going to grow. I think that we are looking for data scientists and machine learning engineers who are not afraid of taking on new challenges and really absorbing the future. I think that it's obvious to say that AI is moving at such a fast pace, and most of the stuff that have been doing for the last several years is, I don't want to say obsolete, but it's not the future. And we are looking for engineers who are not afraid to explore new technologies and to explore the future, to have the endurance and the commitment to stay abreast of the latest tech, and just are really hungry to apply the latest tools to what we're doing here at iCardio. That it's technology that I'm really excited about, and I'm working for people who share that same excitement.
Roman, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. Really appreciate you sharing your own backstory and the origins of forming iCardio AI. It really is such an incredible space and probably the best example of AI for good. creating technology that can help physicians with speed and accuracy, ultimately helping people's lives. And obviously the area of cardiology is the number one area for this type of technology to have an incredible impact. Congrats on the success so far. The best of luck in the months and years to come. And we wish you, the team, and everyone at iCardio the best of luck. We look forward to seeing what you guys can accomplish.
Absolutely, JP. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.